Okay, before we get started with the best list, I do want to clarify something really quick. To be honest, there are actually quite a lot of games I like playing in Mario Party 8. However, because this is a top 10, a lot of them will not be mentioned. So for the purpose of this list, I have removed a lot of the extremely repetitive Wiimote waving ones, which include the likes of Crank to Rank, At the Chomp Watch, Attention Grabbers, Shake It Up, and a few others. This is because these games are so one-dimensional and, to be honest, feel like an extremely lazy way to implement the Wii's motion features. Number 10. Balancing Act. So after I gave treacherous tightrope such a slamming in the worst video, we have another game about balancing in the form of Balancing Act. But to this game's credit, the balancing is handled in a much different way, and as a result, it's a more tolerable game to play for me. In this game, you and your dueling opponent must race to the end of the course while moving on a rolling object. Unlike treacherous tightrope though, the balancing required has nothing to do with staying on the object, but the direction in which you are moving. You must navigate this small track trying to avoid obstacles and obstructions in your path, and the Wiimote motion controller actually does a pretty solid job in this case. With that being said though, what you see is pretty much what you get, so there isn't really a lot to say about this one. Just a short and sweet, solid duel minigame. Number 9. Mosh Pit Playroom. Now it's time for Mario and friends to go crowd surfing on a giant mosh pit during a Twisted Sister concert. Is what I would like to say, but let's replace the entire scenario with a giant playroom with hundreds of balls falling from the sky and you trying to collect 50 of your color before time is up. Again, not a lot to say about this one, just a giant chaotic collectathon. But when it is all said and done, it's actually kind of fun to try and collect all the balls before your opponents. Also surprising to see that a game of this nature hasn't exactly been used yet. Honestly, I have fun with this one. Number 8. Loco Motives. On the surface, this game might just look like a game where you click on trains as they head towards balloons in an effort to turn the train around before they pop the balloons. But in reality, it's a true test of mind games, skill, and patient endurance that will forever determine the fate of the world as we head into the Dark Ages. No? It's the first thing? Okay, whatever. So maybe I was a bit extreme there, but I do have a lot of fun with this one and seeing how long I can go without popping the balloons, because whoever pops all of their balloons first are the losers of this duel minigame. You have to have a lot of patience for this one, but the good kind of patience, where as long as you are focusing on what you are doing, you'll be fine. Number 7. Alpine Assault. Remember Avalanche in Mario Party 4? This is what Avalanche should have been, I think. Although to be fair, in this game you are snowboarding and not skiing, and there is no avalanche punishment behind you. However, the point is, you are riding down a snowy mountaintop and you are racing your opponents to the very end. Unlike Snow Ride in Mario Party 7, there are no checkpoints to slalom through, as it's just a straight-up snowboard race to the end, which I do think is more interesting than what Snow Ride offered, but at the same time, this is much lower on the best list. Maybe it's just a case of the best in Mario Party 8 is better than the best in Mario Party 7, or maybe the simple nature of Snow Ride is what made it more captivating as a minigame. I don't know, but the point is this one is good too. You can't really go wrong with a racing in a Mario Party game, and with the ability to do tricks to go faster at the top of hills, it makes the chance for a very exciting race. The motion controls can be a bit weird sometimes, but once you have a handle on them, you won't be complaining ever again. Number 6. Cosmic Slalom. Once again, going to take a flashback all the way to Mario Party 3 to refresh you on the minigame Motor Rooter. It was a game I really loved in concept, but due to the god-awful controls, it couldn't escape the Wrath of the Worst list. In Mario Party 8, the concept returns with a much better result. In this duel minigame, you must race your opponent to the very end of a Sonic the Hedgehog 2 half-pipe while slaloming past obstacles. The motion controls really shine in this game as you actually feel like you have some form of control over the vehicle you are piloting. If you fall behind, you also have boosts you can use to catch up, but be warned, you only have 3 for the entire game, and if you use all 3 of them early, you won't have them for the rest of the game. You see this Motor Rooter? You see what a fun game you could have been?
Yeah!
Number 5. Aim of the game. This game requires a focused mind and quick reflexes if you want to come out on top here. In this game, a bunch of cards will fall down on screen, and while this is happening, you get to take a look at what point values are on the cards. Your goal is to aim and fire at 5 cards, with the winner of the game being the person who scores the highest amount of points. So basically, you want to find those high point values early and fire at them as soon as possible before your competition does. There are some special cards to look out for though. Every now and then you'll see a card that either has ×2 or ×0 on it, with the former doubling your score and the latter taking you back to 0. You want to avoid the 0 card at all costs, and you want to make sure you're using the X2 at the most pivotal point. It's more advantageous to use an X2 at the very end as opposed to the very beginning when you barely have any points, if any at all. So there is a bit of a strategy to this one, and even if you don't have the reflexes, you could potentially score big on whatever cards are left near the end. Overall, a very solid game. Number 4, Grabby Gridiron. Is this the first time Mario has done anything with an American football? I don't know, but when I think about this game, I remember back in the old days after Mario had a monopoly on most of the big sports. Tennis, golf, baseball, soccer were already under his belt, and thanks to the completely inferior Mario hoops, basketball was covered to an extent as well. The only other sport was American football, and while I wouldn't say this is a clear adaptation of the sport, it's at least a step in the direction. In this team game, you and your partner must try to collect dropping footballs and return them to your goal. You just have to touch the ball to pick it up and try to touch the platform at the end to deposit the ball into the goal. The defending team can stop this by punching and kicking to knock the ball out of your hands, but you can do the same to them whenever they have the ball as well. It's a really good team game, as one player could play aggressive in trying to grab the ball, while the other could be more defensive and try to get the other player on the rebound if they grab it first. Overall, it's a really fun team game, and that's all I really have to say about it. Number 3, King of the Thrill. Oh boy, we have another 2 vs 2 team game in the top 5, and this one, well, gotta be honest, this one is a little less exciting in terms of the objective, but Mario Party minigames have never really had to be something completely unique or off the wall. This game is a straight up survival game where you are put up against someone on the other team, and you must try to knock them off of the platform in order to earn your right to the bigger battle stage. Because of the 2 vs 2, you are fighting one of your opponents, and your teammate is fighting the other one. The winners of those 2 mini-battles will meet up on the big stage, and if the 2 people on top happen to be enemies, a more epic battle will begin. If both members from the same team win, well, your team won. Minigame over. I kind of wish they would have taken this idea a little further though, but in a game with only 4 players, that really only opens the doors for 3 matches at the absolute most. Maybe if 2 players from the same team won, they battle as well, but the absolute winner gets a few more coins? I don't know, I think that would have been a bit more interesting, but the game is still fine as it is. I really love this game honestly, and for a while this idea was one of my all-time favorites, but I just can't feel like I can give this one credit for the absolute best in Mario Party 8. Thankfully, there were 2 others that came on top though. Number 2, Saucer Swarm. All you Space Invader fans out there, eat your heart out because we have the game for you. In this game, a giant swarm of alien saucers are quickly approaching you, and your job is to shoot them away and try to get the largest amount of points possible. If the saucer hits your machine, you are temporarily stunned and prevented from using your weapon, so make sure you don't get so greedy with staying in one location. There is also a golden saucer that can score you a few extra points, so if you play conservatively and intelligently, getting the best score shouldn't be too hard. I also like the use of motion controls in this one, as it changes up, but not necessarily in an annoying fashion, the way you aim and move your weapon around when it comes to firing at your targets. This is hands down one of the best battle minigames in the entire series, and if it wasn't for Facelift in Mario Party 2, it probably would be the best battle game, honestly. Number 1, Booting Gallery. When I was talking about Spider Stomp in Mario Party 7, I referenced a game that took the 2-player hunting mechanic to an even greater extreme, but I was actually not talking about this one. To be honest, I may have confused what I was talking about with a minigame in Wii Party instead, and not Mario Party 8 or 9. With that being said though, what I was referencing does apply to this game as well, and looking at its position on this list, I think it verifies my point precisely. Welcome to Booting Gallery, a 2 vs 2 team game where you and your partner go on a ghost hunting jaunt through a haunted mansion. Your goal is to simply exterminate all of the boos, and in perfect Wiimote motion control fashion, you control the crosshair and you fire at will. Both teams have to essentially go through the same course, so it's all a matter of which team can be more effective with their shots. At the very end, much like in Spider Stomp, you have to face a giant version of the ghosts, and once that puppy goes down, a winner will be declared. Although I'm maybe not the biggest fan of the aiming a crosshair and firing types of minigames, mostly because I have a slower reaction time than most, I have to give Mario Party 8 a lot of credit for doing these games very well. This one in particular, in a way, almost kind of tells you a story as you work through the mansion. And with all of that combined with a strong sense of teamwork, it's no shock that Booting Gallery is my favorite minigame in Mario Party 8. And that's it for the minigames, guys. Join me tomorrow when we look at the boards for Mario Party 8. This has been SlimKirby. See you guys next time. Later, folks.